Hello, and welcome to Feel No Shame, a podcast created to normalise conversations around the subject of suicide. The Feel No Shame podcast does not endorse or encourage suicidal behaviours or deliberate self-harm. Instead, we promote open and safe discussion around suicidal thoughts and feelings, as well as how to manage them. If you are affected by anything we talk about on today's podcast and feel like you need somebody to speak to, please call the Samaritans any day, any time on 116 123. If you'd like to get in touch with us, please email feelnoshamepod@gmail.com or follow Feel No Shame Pod on Instagram and Facebook. Take care and enjoy the episode.
How do I start them?
No, like, how do we start? How do we start so we pretend like we're not starting? Do you know what the answer is? We've just done it.
That's it, exactly. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone. Hope you're well.
Hello.
Hello, and welcome to Feel No Shame, episode 4.
Episode 4.
Wow, we've done this for a month. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. How are you?
I've been trying to when I do the episode synopses when it's more than one.
Synapse.
Synopsis.
I don't know.
When I write them, whenever I write episode 1, I always try and think of a Star Wars based pun that would still work, and I haven't found one yet. To the point where I think episode 3 I was going to say something like, "But there's no clones, just individuals," and I backed out of that one, obviously.
That would have been great for episode 2, because that was all about.
Okay, well, there we go. There we
That
go.
was-
So I'm not even up on my knowledge. But what's episode 4 called? A New Hope.
A New Hope. So.
And do you know what? I hope
Oop.
we have a good podcast.
No, see, that would be good for the vlog because my facial expression changed from sarcastic happiness to monotone lack of support.
Just absolute disappointment.
Yeah. Anyway, how are you?
Yeah, all good here. Got the heater on, got a candle burning almost down to the wick. You want to see it?
Where's the other end? Are you burning at both ends? Ah! Nice.
So it's a wooden wick as well.
Audio description. Rowan is showing us a candle.
I'll put a link to where I get these candles from in the episode description as well. Let me write that down.
We're hoping to get a sponsorship deal. Get a sponsorship deal going, Rowan. Come on.
If anyone gives me free things, I'm happy. But I'm going to write on here, candles, thanks. Because I mentioned the T-shirts.
Yeah.
So this is the shirt for today.
It's quite
But
apt as well.
I have to buy these T-shirts. But here we go.
For...
The money goes to charity.
Yeah.
So everything I buy T-shirt wise for these podcasts is from organizations or companies that will then donate their profits, or at least some of their profits, to good causes. So this obviously goes to the British Heart Foundation, which is relevant to the rest of this episode. And on the back is a big almost knocked the candle over. There's a big heart. Can you see that?
I can. Yes. Audio description. Rowan is showing his back. For those that are not listening or watching, sorry, but are listening. So there you go. Quite apt as well for me because I had some feedback from none other than the ball and Jade. No, the wife. Basically, my beautiful wife Jade was just saying to me today, as I was preparing breakfast over by the breakfast bar, and she said, "Oh, just a bit of feedback for you, babe." I was like, "Yeah, what?" Rowan always seems to be dressed appropriately for the. You're always in your pajamas, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I didn't." You know, when you just think I'm in a relaxed environment. I'm surrounded by. I'm surrounded by Marcello Bielsa for audio descriptive purposes. I've got a background filter on, but yeah, I only just realised. Oh yeah, I am. Like episode 1, I'm wearing my Superman pajama top. Episode 2, I'm wearing my Star Wars pajama top, and then episode 3, I'm back in my Superman pajama top. I just have to apologise to all viewers that think I'm very dishevelled. I'm not. However, I'm wearing pajama bottoms tonight, so I'm wearing Jules. I'm sponsored by Jules tonight. It's a lovely top. It's double XL, but it's nice and comfortable. And I feel as though I don't have a ridge anymore because I'm losing weight, so it's great. So yeah, I'm comfortable in my top tonight, which is not a pajama top. So there you go.
And at least you're wearing pajama bottoms this week, because it's been unbearable every time you've stood up the last 3 weeks.
Hey, size is not everything, isn't that right? No. Yeah.
Not so much the size, it's the shading, it's the angle,
The girth.
the number. Well, just insert whichever word you want here. We were going to talk about Piers Morgan, but more specifically, Meghan Markle, and the strange situation that went on this week, where Piers Morgan felt like it was appropriate to comment on somebody else's suicidal thoughts as part of his alleged obsession with her. Do you notice you can say alleged before anything?
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Assumed as the
Allegedly, he's obsessed with her for whatever reason, and just sort of went off on her on Good Morning Britain, which resulted in him then being called out on it, quite rightly, by
Alex Beresford. Yeah.
Is he he's a local? I think so.
He was actually, yeah. He used to do the weather locally and then got promoted to the Premier League of ITV.
Yeah. So he
So
spoke up, and he felt like most of us, I would say, that it was inappropriate for somebody to reveal that they were having suicidal thoughts, and for somebody else to then say live on television, "No, you're not. You are making it up." How did you feel about it, Al? Did you watch it?
yeah, funny enough, I watched it. I watched the repeat of it today, where he stormed off in disgust because Alex. For those that haven't watched it, we'll just give you a quick running commentary. Alex Beresford was on the set. He looked very tired. I think he was I think he's been drained of just hearing this tripe in my own words from Morgan, and I won't call him Piers because I won't do him justice. Morgan, Mr. Morgan, he's given a soapbox and he spouts it, and you can see in the face of Susanna Reid that she's had enough as well. But Alex Beresford really did just put his head above the parapet and said, "Look, I don't know what your agenda is, Piers, but is it because she went on one dinner appointment with you and then completely blanked you afterwards that you've got this horrendous mantra against her?" And Piers Morgan didn't like it and stormed off the set. But it seems to me as though he's more than happy to give his own opinion on things. He's more than happy to dish out all this all this tripe, as I've said. But when it comes back to him, tripe tennis, he can't volley it back, or he can't return serve. I like that.
Keep
But
going.
ultimately, it really did insult me with the fact that he said, "Oh, she must be making it up," or the assumption of her not getting the support. It's not true. It can't happen. Either way, and I know I spoke to you about this before the podcast, but either way, regardless of whether or not it's true, if this is being said out loud to a public arena, then there should be support available, regardless of it being true or not, for Meghan and to Harry. You know, this whole evidence of Piers saying, but Harry's an advocate of all these mental health charities. He supported her. He did everything he could. I work for a profession where apparently, you know, law is law. I don't know everything about the law. I have to research it. So with Harry, even though he's an advocate of many mental health charities, that situation for him at that time where he's having to cradle his wife because she feels like ending it, like checking out, that's all he could do at the time. And I just think it's no place for Piers Morgan to say anything. And once again, a nation divided. We're divided by, you know, who do we support? Do we support Harry and Meghan, or do we support the royals? But it's a very it's a melting pot for discussion. The situation with that family's been in the public eye for many generations, and I just I just think they are a family themselves that have broken free from conformity, and the best of luck to them. And I am so glad that this came out, because they don't have to be silenced. You should not be silenced if you've got problems that are bubbling away. So I hope she gets the support she needs if she still has these thoughts. And I think the right thing to do was to get out. It was a toxic scenario, a toxic area of discussion. Um, the whole point of this, well, you're not getting a title because of the color of his skin. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna go into that, quite frankly, because it's not our place to talk about that. I don't think, because we could we could go on for hours about it. But I think the powers that be, the firm, the institution that they were part of, was a toxic one, regardless of being family, regardless of being relative. They had to get out for their own sanity, and they did. And I'll mirror that in my discussion about my own personal experiences in this podcast. So
coming up.
yeah,
And to go back to the Harry supporting her, it's different when it's a partner. Like
isn't it?
it's really hard, because you have to. I mean, you're close to that person anyway, so you have really strong feelings about them, and you're not going to be impartial, and you're not going to be thinking straight yourself. So as much as he knows, yes, he can support her to a limit, but there comes a time when all of us, well, I mean, we all deserve professional help anyway, but some of us will need professional help, and that's completely different to the help you receive from a friend or a partner. Sometimes that help from a friend or a partner can be enough, but
Mm.
sometimes you do have to go one further. But it's bizarre to me that this whole argument exists,
Yeah.
because somebody has said that they feel like they don't want to be here anymore. And if somebody's natural inclination isn't to then offer compassion and
Mm.
support and understanding, what is going on now? That's
I know.
rhetorical. Who knows what's going on?
Well,
But similarly, so in the 3 episodes we've had previously, we've spoken about adverse childhood experiences. Then we had Holly talking about perinatal mental health difficulties, and Charlotte talking about difficulties growing up in school and adolescence in general. And there's a theme to all of those 3 subjects, in that at one point or another they all felt trapped by their circumstances, and they all felt like they were overwhelmed because they were trapped because of their circumstances. And it's exactly the same, with a few nuances, for Meghan Markle in this situation, because she kind of found herself in a situation where certain human rights, it seems, were taken away. She had to
yeah.
not see people that she wanted to see, hand in her car keys, that kind of thing.
Mm.
But also she was then told that, this is all alleged, I suppose, but she was told not to ask for support because it would look bad. And then it's kind of like, well, what's she supposed to do? She's got all these intense, powerful feelings, nowhere for them to go. The situation she's in is making those feelings worse. It's exacerbating the situation. Again, there's overwhelm. Again, there's a feeling of being trapped. Again, there is a completely understandable human reaction of feeling like the only way out is suicide.
Yeah.
And so, again, just to reiterate that point, anybody who hears somebody say, I don't want to be here anymore, for it to then turn into an argument where people are getting angry and people are getting cross and people are getting skeptical, that's all of their feelings, and
Yeah.
they need to deal with their feelings on their own. Piers Morgan, if you're listening to this, which you're not going to be listening to, but you need to deal with your own stuff and stop putting it on other people. And Alan backs me up, right, Al?
Yes, no, 100 billion%, if that was a percentage.
Right, it goes up to
It,
100.
it just only goes up to 100, yeah, but it's
Yeah.
just exacerbating it. But no, I think with him, he thrives, and I've seen it in the press. I've seen it in his previous experience with getting sensationalist tabloids headlines out there, the urinating on the wall, for look at what these soldiers are getting done to them. And it was just one of his PAs or someone urinating up a wall. It was all fake. It was all sensationalized. There's a part of me that assumes maybe that walkout yesterday was sensationalized because they're trying to get better ratings than BBC. I just think, from my own point of view, they're cashing in on someone's mental health, and it's disgusting.
Yeah.
Whoever's right or wrong in that scenario, and like you've just said, there should not be an argument. There shouldn't be an argument about having to try and support someone. It just should be done. It should just be just go and get the help you need. And I just feel, in my own soundbite, it was a toxic situation they both were in. They had a family that was growing. They needed to get out, and they did. And they shouldn't be vilified for it. There's no way he's going to be King of England. There's no way she's going to have the chance unless something happens. It's just not. It's just not the way that they saw their lives going. And I think fair play to them. But why it's divided a nation or why it's divided the world, I don't know. I really don't know. I just think it just opens more questions up to what goes on behind the scenes. Maybe we'll find out in The Crown in a couple of years. Who knows?
Maybe I still won't care then.
Exactly.
About the royal family.
Exactly.
But yeah, you're right. If her suicidal feelings have been used as some kind of marketing ploy or some kind of ratings boost, then again, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
And the cynical part of me, is quite a big part of me, feels like it probably was a Piers Morgan orchestrated walkout. It's unlikely he'll do anything without knowing that he can get something out of it in the end. And
absolutely.
if he's used her deepest, darkest thoughts as a stepping stone to further greatness, then it makes him even more not a deplorable human being, but a human being who does deplorable things. Let's say that. That's diplomatic, and that's genuinely how I feel. He's not a bad guy. He does bad things.
He rides the tailcoats of sensationalism. That's all it is. He's a walking, talking headline, and that's it. And he supports Arsenal, which makes him even worse. But there you go. But having said that,
it's probably a bit reductive as well to call it a generational thing, because not everybody in his generation feels that way. But that will be like an easy distinction that's made, I think, that's probably quite baseless. I don't know. We're a similar age. Obviously, you're slightly older than me.
Mid, not old. I'm mid.
Late. Well, round it up because you're 35 now. So round it up. That's basically 60. But yeah, the younger generation. Again, this is generalization. Generalization.
Nice.
The younger generation tend to be more open, tend to be more accepting of mental health issues, of suicidal thoughts and feelings, which is the direction that we want to go in, where it can be normalized and where we can have these discussions without it ending up being a big argument or a bargaining chip or whatever it is. Whereas stereotypically, the older generation may not be so familiar with this openness. Is that fair to say, or is that tarring everybody with an unfair brush?
I don't think it's tarring because compare it to, I mean, a great example would be Little Britain. Okay, the way I really enjoyed watching Little Britain when I was younger. I think it's nearly 15, 20 plus years. It's nearly 20 years old now, I think. And I was growing up just before going off to uni watching it. But when you look back at it now, you just think, oh, there's some racial undertones, there's some homophobia, there's a lot of characteristics that nowadays you would think you would not put that on primetime television. However, during that time, it was accepted. It was humorous to a certain degree, and then it got repetitive, and they just cashed in on single one track liners and so on. I just feel it is a generational thing. However, it should be broadened. It should be conversations that we can talk about and not vilify the past, because the past is the past. Things change, things adapt, and we learn from it, and we learn from things. Matt, Luke, I mean, we're going off on a tangent. I mean, we've gone from Meghan to the only gay in the village type scenario. But ultimately, they have apologized. Then you have the argument, why should you apologize? Because, this is great comedy. You're never going to have everyone agree. And I think it's just the conversations need to happen. It doesn't need to be, orchestrated sensationalism on conversations. God, we're saying a lot of long words tonight. But I think it is a generational thing, but every generation should have their say and discuss things. But not be I'm right and you're wrong, I'm big and you're small and there's nothing you can do about it. Nothing like that. Just just s- just plausible conversations, just conversations that are open and honest. And thankfully, nowadays we're able to talk about the uncomfortable and make it in some way comfortable. And I mean, I just feel as though um, uh, 20 years ago, I was enjoying Little Britain, as I said, but it's a different world now. People are standing up to a lot more things, and people younger than I am are putting themselves forward as advocates of mental health and talking about things that I know I would never have talked about at their age. So I just applaud that. So that that's the beauty of social media as well. It gives people nowadays an avenue, a soapbox to stand on and talk about things. It's just certain things again shouldn't be said. But then 10 years, 15 years from now, who knows what we'll be talking about and seeing what's acceptable and what isn't acceptable. However, we're not going to go on and on and on about it, but racism is never anything to say, oh yeah, it's acceptable. It's something that we should always talk about and always discuss. But however, it's a generational thing. I do agree. It's something that we adapt to and we learn from.
To some extent, a generational thing, because there are
Yeah.
good apples and bad apples in every generation.
In every
but,
generation.
But hopefully, I mean, you can still stand by things that you've said, but apologize at the same time. And hopefully that's what some people learn to do, in that they can say, yes, I believe in free speech, and yes, this is what I believe in, but I know that may hurt some people, and I'm truly sorry if that is the case. And another stone that's thrown at the younger generation will be that everybody's too sensitive. Everybody's too sensitive now.
Yeah, everyone does.
Everybody's too sensitive. Everybody's speaking up when they shouldn't be. And it's not that people are too sensitive, it's that people now feel, quite rightly, like they're allowed to have a say, like they have broken free of some shackles and have the platform to now be able to speak. So it's not that nobody was offended back then, it's that people were offended and terrified and felt like they weren't allowed to have a say and felt like that wasn't their place. Whereas now, people are terrified and speaking up, which is the bravest thing, which again brings us back to Meghan, in that she is terrified, but she is also speaking up. And she represents, in her own way, a huge microcosm of society who feel terrified, but don't feel like they can speak up. And this is where the Piers Morgan thing really stings, in that she spoke up, and rather than it being, wow, let's applaud this person, let's give her the help she deserves, it is half of the people saying that and the other half saying she's making it up, she doesn't deserve anything, she's attention seeking. Oh, that phrase out grinds my gears. Of course she's seeking attention, because she needs the attention for that particular topic or that particular worry that she has. But yeah, let's not go on too much about this. Let's agree that we are right about every single thing we say.
Absolutely, and I will vote for that. I will vote and veto Morgan, not Piers. Morgan. But yeah, just if Harry and Meghan do want to come on to Feel No Shame, because one of the quotes that I did hear her say was that she felt ashamed for those thoughts.
But we don't want her to feel any shame.
No, exactly. So that's one thing that resonated with me when she did speak out about the thoughts and feelings that she went through at that stage. She felt ashamed of actually thinking those thoughts. And I looked at Jade, and Jade looked at me, and I thought, have to tell Rowan about that. And here we are. So yeah, feel no shame, Meghan.
Feel no shame.
Yeah, and if you do, if you're listening, get Oprah on the blower. We'd love to, have a chat. But no, never gonna happen.
At Feel No Shame Pod or feelnoshamepod@gmail.com if you do want to get in touch. Any other royals who have abdicated.
Should we have a poll to see who was the royal that said the thing about that thing no.
Don't think you're allowed to mention his name, are you? It just gets beeped out on things I listen to. Anyway.
Name redacted.
Yeah.
Curled up, wishing for the womb, death banging at the door, over and over again. Go away, not today, I whisper. Well done. You're getting better at pretending you're okay. Look inside my head. I picture a black hole which will eventually swallow everyone I know and love.
So who's the guest today anyway? What time are they getting here? We've been talking for quite a while.
I don't know who the guest is, Rowan.
I think you do. For it is you.
It's me. No,
it was you all along.
It was me, Austin.
So you kindly agreed to talk to us today about your own. Am I allowed to set this up? Is this okay? You're allowed.
To be quite honest, I pushed it, didn't I? I was like, yeah, do it, yeah, because we were thinking, oh, should we have a break? Should we have a week off? And then I thought, no, because it should be weekly if we can. We'll probably get to a point where like, there's no one wants to talk to us. But yeah, I did instigate it. I thought, no, I've got something to say. Let's say it. But no, carry on. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that you kindly agreed to talk to us about your own feelings around the death of your father when you were 15. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, it was
20 years ago. And some of those feelings are pertinent to the podcast because you did feel like you didn't want to be here, but you'll be the best person to explain that to us. So
absolutely.
I've mentioned to you beforehand, I wanted to treat this like a normal podcast, but I didn't write any questions. I'm not going to grill you.
To be honest, I just want free counselling, really. No,
yeah,
I'm cashing in. I'm exploiting your job. No, I'm joking. But I think just as a disclaimer, for anyone that's listening, I'm okay. I am fine. I'm in a very happy place. I'm the happiest I've ever been. I've got a beautiful wife, a beautiful son, a great big house with a conservatory and a hot tub, blow up one. But yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling really good. The only thing that resonates still, I love saying that word tonight, that resonates, is just in the back of my mind, the whole, it would have been nice for dad to see this, or it would have been nice for dad to see that. But how do you want to do it, mate? Do you want me talk, or you start, or how do you want to do it?
I think you talk.
Yeah. Okay.
It's your story.
Thank you. So I'll try not to get emotional. I'll talk about. No. I will, because I don't want to edit it, really. I just want it to flow. No, no. But it all began back in the early 86 when 85 when James Martin, Edward Byrne, and Phyllis Theresa Mary Byrne decided, let's have a fourth baby. And the stars aligned, and we won't go into the ins and outs, no pun intended. But in 1986, I was born, and it was great. My dad was a worker in British Steel in Corby, where my mum still lives. They set up a beautiful home, 33 Bamberg Close. That's where I lived between the ages of 0 and 18. And it was great, absolutely superb. I had a brilliant childhood. I had my dad would be a massive fan of Dean Martin. I would fall in love with the music of the crooners. He would tell my mum off for playing the Dubliners too much. And it was a beautiful childhood. I always remember that. And as I said in the Facebook message that I put out to share the fact that we were doing this podcast, I was brainwashed to support Leeds United, which is why I've got the greatest manager that ever lived behind me, and one of his interpreters. So it's fine. But yeah, Leeds United, I was born and raised up on, and I'll never forget 1992. We won the last ever proper first division, and there I'm at the top of the stairs, and there's my dad listening on the radio, just getting in from work, doing a little jig, because he hasn't seen his team win the league since 1975. He's seen them get promoted, seen them go down, and it feels as though I'm reliving that. But we'll get onto that in a bit. But 92, and that I fell in love with Leeds because of my dad. And then as I started getting older, I noticed my dad started getting a lot of nosebleeds. I thought it was due to the steel, the rock metal, or I don't know, going into his orifices, and then he bleeds because it's probably it's doing something on his insides. But he had a lot of nosebleeds. And growing up, I think I remember one of my birthdays. I had the McDonald's birthday, where I was allowed to invite up to 10 friends, and we went to the big McDonald's, and I was the king. I was like, yes, I've got people coming to my party that want to eat free Mackie D's, and we'd go back behind the kitchens, and it was all because of me. But my dad wasn't there because he was in hospital, because he had to get his nose he had to get the inside of his nose cauterized because it just got too much. The nosebleeds got too much. Now, I don't know if that was a factor that later caused his death because of his heart. But fast forward to 15. I'm 15 years of age, and I'll never forget my dad being a teenager. I'll never forget my dad getting a bit not irate, but just going, just go up and tidy your room, like in a very strong Irish voice. And it was out of character. And this was like a few days before he passed. But yeah, it was a really surreal moment because I'll never forget it. The night before he passed, it was a beautiful summer's evening, and my mum and dad, they just had the confirmation that my dad was getting made redundant from work. He wanted it to happen, and he was getting a big payout. He was getting a really big payout. And it was really exciting times for them too, because they'd be able to go on holidays more together. They'd be able to potentially, because I think one of their aspirations together was to frequently go on holiday a bit more, probably even get a little villa somewhere. I don't know. But I'll never forget that night. I stayed in the house while they were having a little celebration out in the back garden, and I was watching this stupid documentary on Madonna. And I don't know why I was, but that's, when you say you have no regrets in life, that's a regret, because the following day, my life changed 100%, flip reverse, 100, 180, 360, because I remember waking up and it was an average school day, 5th of July, and my dad was getting ready for work, 6:30, 7:15, and he's downstairs, and I hear him struggling. I think, oh, he's probably had, he's had a bit too much the night before. I thought, oh, he's on the toilet getting sick, all that sort of stuff. And then my mum goes down, and I'm still, as a teenager, can't be bothered getting up. Just, school's in about 10 minutes, whatever. And then I heard my mum saying, "Oh, Al, can you go down and can you go just check on your dad?" I was like, "Yeah, of course." And my dad's on the, just by the loo, just, you know, getting sick. And I say, "You all right, Dan?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm fine, son." And I thought, "Okay, see you later." Because I thought, right, you've had too much to drink. That's your own fault. Off I go. And then I go back to bed, and my mum then says, "Ali's having a heart attack." I was like, and I think that's when it was like, I'm awake, wide awake. Go down. Ambulance has been called. Our next door neighbour's a nurse. She's with him, and it's seeing the ambulance come, and I'll never forget my brother Jim in his car just races round the corner. It's just a very big cul-de-sac, and he just races round the corner, and he runs in, and it's all pandemonium in the in the hallway. And for me at 15, seeing my dad, that was quite a colourful chap. He had a lot of colour to his skin. It went grey within seconds, and it's like, okay, this is serious. And I'm like, okay, and I stay with the nurse. My next door neighbour is a nurse, and she's trying to keep me as calm as I can, because at the time I was like, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So I calm. They go off to Kettering General Hospital, and then my other brother Steve comes along. He's unbeknownst to, he's just got off work. He's a postie and stuff like that. He doesn't know what's going on, and we go together in the car, very silent. That was the one thing that I remembered. We didn't speak at all on the way there, and I'm in the. I had to let one of my friends know, because we normally used to go to school together. I'd say, look, I can't come in because I think my dad's had a heart attack, so I'm off to see him. And I'm thinking in my head, oh, it's one of those scenarios where he's had a heart attack, he's fine. That was the initial feeling I had. And then I get there, very eerie. Big Breakfast is playing. I'll never forget that. Johnny Vaughan is still presenting the Big Breakfast. It's on in the waiting room, and then I get called in, and it's a very somber looking doctor. I'm like, okay, this is starting to get worse and worse and worse. And then my mum just said, he's dead. And it was just that initial. I remember the hands going over the face, and it just went. Like if you've when your ears go, there's a tinniness or just a void noise, if that makes sense. And from that moment, it just was surreal. Like I'm not myself. I'm living someone else's life. This is not real. And then I'm looking at Jim. I'm looking at my brother Steve, and my mum's in hysterics. It's just unfolding as I'm just seeing out. And then I go in to see him. And that for me was sh- uh, he didn't look real. It was He was very cold and so on. But I said goodbye. I said, see you later, Dad. As coolly as you could. Went in with my sister, and the ride home was unbelievable, because it's like, what is going on? None of us spoke. None of us spoke. And for a family, and we're an Irish family that doesn't shut up, and you are competing for voices. That was very eerie. And then getting it back into 33 Bamberg, the phone calls have to be made. People have to be notified. I'm still half in my school uniform, white top, black trousers, and then I look at the table, and my dad's Leeds United cup's there, and his cereal bowl is still there, and it's half eaten, and the cup is still relatively lukewarm. It's like, okay, and that's it. So I went up the field, escaped the atmosphere, went up, and as we've said before in this podcast this week, that was my attention seeking. That was my initial. I want to I want someone to talk to, but I don't want someone to talk to. And my brother came up. We sat. We chatted. Steve, my brother did, and we came back into the house. And the 3 weeks that led up to my dad's funeral, I'd felt togetherness as a family. We were all there supporting each other. It was surreal, but we were all there together. And then it was after the funeral that the darkness, so to speak, came, because I'm on my own. They have to go back to their lives. They have to go back to what they want to do, and to pay the bills. We they've got houses to pay for, and it was all the aunties and uncles, and everyone saying, you're demanded the house now, and that's my very poor Irish accent. But yeah, it was me and my mum, up until I turned 18 and went off to uni. And yeah, there were moments where I felt trapped myself. My mum was very concerned about me, rightly so. She's a mum, but the beauty of it was I had certain friends that I'd never really spoken to before, and they'd come and support me, and I grew great friendships. So one of our followers, I will say, Fred Harvey, hello. He's listened, and I know he's listening. So thank you very much for what you did back then. He gave me all his fags because I smoked with him, and we bunked off school once to play FIFA. He showed me all about FIFA. Well, basically it was just an excuse to escape. But we'd go up to his bedroom, he'd play his guitar, and I'd nick his fags and play FIFA. It was great. But that was my little escapism. And we're adults now. And that we just thinking about it, I do think, okay, the worry I gave my mum sometimes, was right. I ballooned in weight, in regards to, maybe that was my maybe that was my explosive demeanor, but I sorted that out. Lost a lot of weight when I got to by the time I got to 18. And yeah, I felt good. I felt really good. But there were times in between all of that, that I'd be unable to sleep. I'd be unable to sleep because I'd be always thinking, what would my dad be able to say to me now? What would my dad be saying to me with this scenario? Um, my grades are not as good as they should be. What would he say to me? Leeds are not doing well. What would he say to me? Leeds have just got relegated. How would he feel? All that sort of stuff was going through my mind. And I was starting to go through that, seeing Leeds get relegated. And that one of the things he used to say to me was, I was there, Al, I was there. I saw them go down, and I saw them in their darkest times. And then I've seen them now in their best of times. So, it was one of those scenarios where I was trying to depict my fall with the demise of Leeds United. Seriously, it was that. It was we're going down to the championship. I feel really low as well.
Yeah,
It was just mirrored. That was. I mean, it's a
it's
bit of,
parallel.
yeah. And I thought there were times where I would be just thinking, okay, that knife on the side of the table, what would happen if that would go through me? That sort of thing. I never, and this is again a disclaimer, I never had the inclination to do it. I never had the inclination to do it, but they would be there to say, oh, I wouldn't, oh, would anyone miss me? Would anyone would anyone do that? And then I'd be like, yeah, of course. And it would just be for those fleeting seconds. Oh, okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm going to move away from that, because for me would, at that point, and even looking back to it now, I wouldn't do anything. But it's the thoughts, and it would be drinking myself into a stupor. And I recall, Friday nights, mum would be asleep on the sofa. We'd watch Big Brother together, just things that would be comfortable. And then I'd nick her fags, go into my bedroom, smoke out the window, and play my PlayStation 2, all those sort of things, and drink a bottle of vodka. and then fall asleep, or get sick and then fall asleep. My mum wouldn't know, So sorry, mum, if you know now. But it was those things where I'd do stupid things, and not have the repercussion. Ah, well, no one cares. But those feelings, I think, they didn't get worse. But in my first year at uni, and thank God I met Jade at the time I did. But it was a struggle for me at university for the first year. It really was. And that was when I was 18. I'd had a rough breakup with someone prior to going to university. My mum didn't like her. She's like, she walks like John Wayne. I don't like her. All that sort of thing. I don't know why that was, something she didn't like. But there you go. But yeah, that was, but that was in the past. Thinking about it now, it makes me laugh. Absolutely. But I just got out of a bad breakup. I'd met Jade during my time at uni, towards the latter end of the first year at uni. But it was when I was on my own, and when all my uni friends had gone home, I wanted to stay, because I just felt as though I needed to be on my own. But then I didn't want to be on my own. It was a horrible juxtaposition. But it was a very claustrophobic atmosphere. Thinking about it now, back at uni, all the studies were done. People were going back home. I didn't want to go home because I didn't have my freedom. I didn't have the freedom to do what I wanted. I didn't have the freedom to go out and get food, or I didn't have the freedom to go to a DVD shop and get something and come back and play it. But it was away from that, when nothing would be on the telly, nothing would be in the fridge, and I just felt so alone. But then I met Jade, and it was a beautiful thing, and I haven't looked back since. But it was those moments in my life that I really thank wrestling for, and I fell in love with that wrestling sort of arena, because it was late night, and it was all that late night Raw and SmackDown on Sky Sports at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Friday night, and it would always just be that. My mum would be asleep on the sofa, and I'd be there just watching this ridiculous fantasy world play out, and that was an escapism, and that's what I think I fell in love with wrestling, and it gave me an outlet. It gave, I've got to find out what The Rock does to Triple H, in a week's time. And me and you have talked about it. We've bonded over it as well. He's just literally killed him. He should be arrested. Oh no, it's fake.
Really bought into it. Checking teletext the next day, wondering why it's not on the BBC News main site.
It's tantamount to vandalism. He's just destroyed a car. It's
but that's the thing, is it's so out of the ordinary that you can jump out of your real world, which isn't very nice at that point, and jump into this completely outrageous world where there's good guys and bad guys, and usually the good guy wins in the end. So it's just like a film, it's just like a series, it's like a book, but it's all escapism, like you mentioned.
It's a beautiful fairy tale, and seeing fantastic athletes play out real life, real life moves, and they are hurting themselves, and it's a spectacle. It's an absolute spectacle. I just felt as though, wow, this is something that I can really enjoy, and I looked forward to every Friday. I looked forward to the time. Oh, mum, you go to sleep. You're all right. You're fine. And I'd just turn the telly on and nick a fags and watch SmackDown. It was great. I don't smoke now, because it's bad for you. But ultimately, I just, at that time, it was the right thing to do. It was the right thing in my mind. It was the right thing to do. It was the right outlet. I wouldn't do it now. However, that actually kept my train of thought going in the right direction it needed to. And thankfully, I found a beautiful woman in my wife now, who showed me that there is life outside of Corby. And I'm not dissing Corby, but at that time in my life, there was nothing there. There was nothing going on. It was a traumatic experience living there, growing up. And now I feel in such a great place. It's absolutely brilliant. But I always think of my dad. I always think of him. I get I get a bit emotional around certain days of the year, my birthday, Father's Day, his birthday, and and again I bring it to Leeds. The moment we got promoted, and you saw me on social media, I, I deliberately shut myself off from everyone, went downstairs and watched the promotion party on my own. And I had a grin from ear to ear, because I knew he'd be there with me, or we'd be on the phone, and I had that conversation with him, just in my head. How do you feel? Oh yeah, worried about this year. Are we going to go down? All those sort of things just run through my head at that time, and those are the things that make me sad, because I'm not able to have those real conversations with him. I'm not going to be able to show him his grandson growing up.
Mm.
But he's around me, because um, he he's given me the chance to live. And why would I want to take that away from other people? Because
Mm.
my brother and I have a great relationship for the radio. My mum and I, we have our differences sometimes. She's a very passionate lady, but she's my mum, and ultimately, she puts up with me, and I put up with her. In a loving way. But ultimately, I think there's, for me, um, the thoughts of suicide. I know they would never have transpired. I know they would
Mm.
never have been taken through to fruition, but they were there. They were there
Mhm.
because you don't. There's times where you just think, God, I don't want to live. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. And it just was ramped up to 11 when my dad passed. But ultimately, as I've said, I'm in a very happy place now, and I don't think you can never be a 100%. But with the way my life is at this point in my time in my life, I am so happy, and I want this to continue. And you know, let's hope Leeds don't get relegated. That's it. Yeah. But
And by this continue, I presume you mean the podcast, because this is the most meaningful thing at the
absolutely,
moment. Yeah.
absolutely. And funny you should mention the British Heart Foundation. And I think it's just twigged. Um, I wanted to do something that I never thought possible back in 2012. And you remember it because you were there at the finish line. Because I thought, I've never run a marathon or a half marathon, and I actually, because of my dad dying of cardiomyopathy, which is the enlargement of the heart, and it was just what I was told was a freak illness that just made the heart enlarge. But having that, I just wanted to make a difference, and to help charities specifically for heart attacks and cardiac arrests, and for people that are from the charity that care and raise money for heart disease, and finding potential issues that can help curb heart disease. I thought, why not race for the British Heart Foundation? So in my job, I thought, let's just run. I felt like running. That's basically Forrest Gump there. And I just was at the desk one day, thought, yeah, I want to go out and do a marathon or a half marathon. And they said, no, you won't. Shit, all that. And I thought, right, I'm going to do it. And I
Mm.
just put out a Just Giving page, and I raised about £500 within the space of a couple of months. It was brilliant, and it really spurred me on to keep going to the gym, going out running. And I ran a half marathon that I never thought I'd be able to do, and all because of racing for the memory of my dad.
Mm.
And yeah, and then I piled all the weight back on, and straight after I went to what's it? Sally Pussy's Inn. No endorsement. And that's a genuine restaurant, and they have a lovely spinach and mascarpone lasagna, and I wolfed it down. But that day I felt really sick afterwards. And you were there. You were there.
I was. I
Yeah,
dined in.
you did. Yeah.
But all of these things you do to add meaning. Well, all of us, we do things to add meaning to our lives. And when you're 15 and your dad's just died, it can feel like life is meaningless. It can feel like that tight little unit you had, that lovely little family unit you had. The rug has been pulled spectacularly from underneath you, and nothing matters anymore. So why not smoke? Why not drink? Why not stay up late? Who cares? Nothing matters because my dad's dead. That kind of mentality. And it's completely understandable because, like, he's the most important guy in your life, and now he's not here anymore.
Exactly.
And then as you get older, you start adding in meaning, and you get to a point now where you have got so much meaning. You've got so many people dependent on you, but who love you. So it's not a chore at all. And
sometimes it can be to love me, but there you go. No.
Finding meaning on its own sometimes isn't enough, and feeling whelmed rather than overwhelmed on its own sometimes isn't enough, and feeling free as opposed to trapped on its own sometimes isn't enough. But once you get all of those ingredients and more, then you can start to feel like life is worth living again. And that's when the suicidal thoughts, that is a handy escape door that is there if you need it, but you know you're never going to go near it, but it's there if you need it. That door goes away as well, because you don't even need the security blanket of suicide, if that makes sense.
It does. The way I see it would be, you know, in that dream like state where you see the door and every time you get closer to it, it goes further and further away, which is a positive outlet. That's how I felt. And yeah, some people say that analogy of a dream-like scenario is quite nightmarish, but turn it on its head. That's how I envision the door disappearing, as you've rightly said. It disappeared into the distance. It's never gonna go, because people can have those thoughts and it brings it back into the forefront. However, I can rightly say now, I know I've already said it, but I will repeat it. I'm in a very good place. I'm a very happy place. But I know myself where to go if ever I have those thoughts or feelings come about again. Yeah, I've felt depressed, in modern times, recent times, job aspects in the past, but I'm in a great place with that as well now. But you should never feel ashamed. You shouldn't feel ashamed to hold your hand up and go, I need help. Or and the beauty of this podcast, it allows me and you to just chat. It allows us to give an outlet for other people. And we've seen that with Charlotte, and we've seen that with Holly, and it's absolutely fantastic. But me and you, we might be the hosts, but we're human beings as well. So that's why I really thank you as a friend, for putting up with me sometimes, and for listening, and for being there if I need you. So the feeling hopefully is reciprocated. But yeah, I know where to go. And that's why it's important for people that are listening, that have these thoughts, that have possibly lost a loved one recently, whoever it may be. They must find some form of outlet for themselves, whether it be smoking, whether it be, just please think about yourself, of course, but just make sure you speak to someone, and then the ball starts rolling, the catalyst is lit, the fuse is lit, and ultimately the next step of the recovery period happens. And it doesn't have to be daily. It doesn't have to be an overnight thing. It can take as long as it takes. But just make sure you listener or viewer, knows that you're not alone. You're not. Even though, and Charlotte said it last week, you might feel alone, but you're not. Absolutely not. 100%.
Do you know what? I checked in with her a couple of days ago, and we were talking about the ending, and she said, I think I said the word alone about 5 or 6 times, and you've just reiterated it. But it's a good point worth making. How do you feel? Just because we probably should finish soon, but how do you feel about that 15-year-old boy? Do you feel any shame?
Is that the question that I normally say? What would you say to that 15-year-old boy?
Very much. I'm trying to change the wording to make it my own, but it's yours.
You can plagiarize me any day, mate.
Would you shout at him? Would you tell him he was making it up? Would you be annoyed?
I'd tell him to I'd tell him to don't worry about anyone telling you to man up, because I was told to man up.
Ugh!
I know, disgusting. Be yourself. Be true to who you want to be, and I know that's be yourself, but be yourself, because that's the only person you can be. Um, I think if I could tell my 15-year-old version of me, you're going to get a hot wife. Don't worry. She's out there. You're going to have a family. You're going to have, if I could time travel, I'd say that, and I'd give him the lottery numbers now. But I think if I could tell him just to just to hold on, it'll be okay. You're not here forever. Because growing up on your own as the only child, being a part of a big family, it was tough at times. But yeah, just hold on, steadfast. You're going to go to university. You're going to have the time of your life. You're going to meet someone that is amazing, and you're going to spend the rest of your life with her. That's it. And also, if I could say to my 15-year-old me, just make sure you delete the tapes.
So do you feel like that 15-year-old had anything to be ashamed of?
Absolutely not. 100% not. I think maybe choose girlfriends a bit better, maybe. But that's for another story. Yeah, maybe just worry about the more important things rather than whether or not you're going to be in a relationship with this girl over that girl, and just focus on yourself. Don't worry about having to please others. You can only please yourself. But that's it. That's all I would say, and enjoy the rest of your life, because you're going to have a good one.
And I tell him that he was a good man back then and he's a good man now. He was a good man back then because he was feeling the feelings and he wasn't running from them as much as he could. And also he was not letting the feelings overcome him. So even with the suicidal feelings, he knew they were feelings. He didn't turn them into behaviours. And look at the person he's turned into now. And actually all of your family are lovely.
They're not bad. No, they're good. I love them.
They're good kids, all of them.
They are. They're good eggs. I love that. They're good eggs. I like that.
I'm going to recommend a book, and I'll put it in the description. I was leaning down here because it's in my bookcase, and it's called "It's Okay That You're Not Okay," and it's about grieving, and it's about the normal things to feel after grieving, and suicidal thoughts will come into there as well. But also Michael Rosen's sad book, I think it's called.
Yes.
I'll share a picture of that on the social media, but he lost his son.
Yeah, he did.
And the first page of the book, spoilers, is a cartoon picture of a man smiling, and it says, "This is me looking sad." And it just kind of goes into how we have to hide those feelings and those emotions sometimes from other people, but sometimes from ourselves. And that's why we engage in these distractions, which can be good in the short term, not necessarily good in the long term. Talking is a good option for the long term.
Remember to always feel no shame.
That might not come across as a harmony because of the lag, but
there was a nice reverb. It went mep mep mep. It went into a beat on its own.
That's what you want out of a song, that noise.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the backing of a car, the backing up of a car. I don't know.
You know what though, Al? Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing that with all of us, because it's your story and you've chosen to share it with us. So we are privileged. We're all very privileged, and hopefully anybody else who is in, hopefully nobody else is in a similar situation, but there will be, because that is life. But hopefully anybody in a similar situation who has been in a similar situation will find that it resonates with them too, and they find some similarities.
It's all about giving comfort, because God knows we need it, and it's the fact that it's just you're not alone, and hopefully, like you say, I know we've said that so many times tonight, and again, let's have that as the hashtag. But yeah, thank you for giving me my soapbox, as people on Twitter and everyone has at the minute. So it was nice, and hopefully I haven't bored you to tears. That's good. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
There may have been tears, but they were empathic ones. Empathic? Empathic? It doesn't matter. The empathy is there, is what I'm trying to say. I was going to say one more thing, and I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Very similar to Holly and Charlotte, and probably anybody that we'll end up talking to. What strength to be able to say that you got through that, and that you're still going, and that you're using it in a positive way.
We're all strong. There you go. Bye.
Take it easy, everyone. I'll do the outro next, so I won't say bye.
I love the guitar thing that you do. Is it you? Or are you gonna?
No, it's an Adobe. It's an Adobe loop, but all credit to Adobe. Thanks, guys.
Just thanks. Yeah. Any sponsorship deal, just pass them our way. Fine. We like anything that has a value to it. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Feel No Shame. We hope you enjoyed it, and remember, if you feel like you need to speak to anybody after listening to this podcast, or at any time, any day, please call the Samaritans on 116 123. Alternatively, please check out the other support services that we recommend at the end of our YouTube videos. Music is by Adobe. I've been Rowan Long with Alan Aldersley-Byrne. Thank you for listening, and join us next time for more of the same.